So we're just gonna like jump into it. You're gonna open it up.
I will open it up in a few minutes. I just want to make sure the stream goes live. It looks like we are currently live.
Cool.
Awesome. So we're going to let some folks hop into the channel. Brian, really appreciate you spending some time on this. This is a pretty unprecedented time for the world and also for our out-of-home industry. We'll give everybody, a few minutes to hop in, but I just wanted to first start off by thanking everybody for taking time out of their day to tune into this. I'm trying to keep this light, but also make sure that we're providing folks in the industry and in the advertising and marketing world with as much information as we possibly can. The live link is just gone live, and I'm going to click on it just to make sure I could see it okay. I've got it over here on the side. All right. So why don't we get started here? I'm going to do just a quick intro. My name's James Heller. I'm the CEO and founder at Wrapify. Wrapify is one of the largest gig economy and rideshare advertising platforms here in the US. We have a network of over 280,000 drivers nationwide. This includes folks that drive for all the different ride sharing services, food delivery, as well as folks that just want to monetize their time on the road. And Brian and I go way back. Brian's definitely a figurehead in the out-of-home industry, but I'll let Brian do a quick intro.
Sure. Hi from Florida. I'm hunkered down in my future in-laws' house, so that's why I'm in a random white bedroom. But I'm really happy to be here and to kind of, again, play off of the whole angle of optimism, because that's what we all need right now, some positive energy. I'm Brian Rappaport, the CEO and founder of Quan Media Group. We are essentially a boutique out-of-home shop that is dedicated to providing a personalized approach to out-of-home buying and planning with a focus on strategy and attribution. We buy and plan nationally as well as internationally. Myself, I come from 12 years in the out-of-home industry, spent 7 at Zenith Media in the publicist world, and then my previous 4.5 at Rappaport at IPG, and came over here really because I have truly enjoyed building one-on-one relationships with clients and brands and really helping them test, scale, and launch out of home. So figured it was try to give it time to give it a try to go on my own. And it's been an amazing 9 months. And, we're in a little bit of a strange period right now, but I feel like there is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely picked an interesting time to launch launch your first startup in the out-of-home space. But I think one of the things we're going to talk about today is I love analogies. I get crap about analogies with all my friends because I love explaining how something works and then using an analogy to re-explain it. But one of the things that I was looking at is this is kind of like a tube of toothpaste, right? There's a certain amount of value that you could extract, or there's a certain amount of toothpaste in that tube. And I look at this as being a period where that amount of value is going to just get pushed into the later half of this year. So with that being said, what do you have to say, or what do you think about the shift of out of home and just ad dollars in general going into Q3 and Q4 as we come out of this tumultuous time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for the out-of-home industry and what awaits us in the second half of 2020. I mean, look, the bottom line is we were supposed to have March Madness. That's no more. We were supposed to have the Olympics. That was no more. On spend in terms of what was spent on US TV back when the Olympics were in Rio in 2016 was somewhere in the $1.2 billion range. That money is now gone. I mean, the Olympics, yes, it's going to be here in 2021, but there are brands that need to use certain allocated budgets for the fiscal year for 2020. And now what they had planned to spend on a March Madness, maybe on NBA games, on opening day, at the Olympics, at Governor's Ball for an activation, at Firefly Festival for an activation, that is no more. There are some festivals like a Coachella that's, moving, but there are others that are just punting and looking at 2021. And what we have here are budgets where brands and heads of growth and CMOs are going to say, well, how else can we start to reach our target consumer once people are allowed back outside again? Well, I don't know. Yeah, you can go digital. Sure, that's great. But, with how amazing the growth of out of home has been over the past 2 years, like everyone's eyes are going to focus back on the out-of-home industry. And well, what could we do now? How could we continue, to kind of reach who we want to reach? And hopefully those eyes are all focused on the out-of-home world. And I think they're going to be. And I think that there is a lot of money to be had in the second half of this year. It's going to be an exciting time. It's just obviously hard to see it right now, being that we're all hunkered down in our homes. And, we just found out we have another 30 days of doing this.
Yeah, I think, you said that ad spend is gone, but my opinion is it's not necessarily gone. It's just going to get pushed into different channels.
Yep.
And while the Olympics aren't happening this year, they're happening now in 21. Now we're going to have ad spend for the Olympic 21, right? So right. I think what we're also going to see is, you're right. I mean, brands and marketers still need to reach an audience, and the reason why they do these sponsorships and these large out-of-home buys centered around events is to reach an audience. They're not just doing it for funsies, right? So they still need to reach an audience, while brands have been all advertising channels during this acute period of 2020. What I think is going to happen, what I see is a really, really big boom in out-of-home spending once we come out of this. And I think one of the questions I have for you is, there are some brands that have a lot more power than others, and I think that might lead to an inventory of out-of-home just getting sucked up. So what does that mean for all the other brands?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's time to really educate. I mean, that's going to be on us, especially on the buying side. Like the struggle that I have with so many brands that aren't so familiar with the out-of-home landscape is how vast it is. And like, yes, there are walls and there's subway and there's street level, but the non-traditional sector is just ripe to be picked right now. And that was kind of, what I touched on. I published something on LinkedIn last week where like brands could still get in front of their target consumer right now, albeit in a more sensitive way. And I think that, yes, when people rush out there and immediately start buying the largest walls and the best station dominations, there are going to be other brands that are like, okay, what do we do now? And I think that's where, a Wrapify comes in, because, with built-in attribution and measurement and with the dashboard that you guys offer to be able to track, impressions in real time, like that appeals to brands. And I think between that and between, what other festivals are sort of pushed to the end of this year and other lifestyle events are taking place, there are going to have to be ways that buyers really sit down with their clients and say, okay, well, how could we be smart? How could we be resourceful? And how could we look at out-of-home in a different scope now that, either inventory is limited or the prime inventory is limited? And I think, that's going to be great for you guys, for sure.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. I mean, I think one of the other things that's been interesting about Wrapify and our platform is, even before this whole COVID-19 social distancing, one of our big value props is our ability to penetrate parts of markets where there was no out-of-home inventory. So if you want to be able to message in the suburbs, if you want to be able to message in markets that have limited or zero out-of-home inventory, Wrapify has always been an option. So, that's been something that's been really helpful for us. And we also don't have a set amount of inventory. We have virtually unlimited inventory. The likelihood of us ever getting to the point of being able to cap out inventory just doesn't exist, even during this time. And one of the things that we've been doing, and I'm sure everybody who's tuned in has probably heard about this, but we launched an effort called Delivery Drives Relief. And it's a campaign where 10 brands have the ability to all get an equal share of voice on 1,900 delivery vehicles across the country. And Wrapify is going to be pushing 100% of the profits directly into the pockets of those delivery drivers. Right now, delivery is the most used segment of the gig economy, and they need this now more than ever. So I think it's just this is just our example of how the out-of-home industry is reacting and adapting to this time. But I'm curious, what Quan is doing to support your client base, and maybe some things that you probably haven't done in the past that you're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first thing that I kind of don't want to do, and it's always hard, and I feel like a lot of agencies are struggling with this right now, is to reach out and check on status of campaigns and like what's coming down the pipeline, or we spoke about you launching this product in April. Is that still happening? Like, we kind of want to shelve that, and it's tough, but you want to show that you're there for your clients. So you want to check in first on a personal level. If you have strong relationships with your clients, like how are they doing? How are they doing as a company through all of this? Let them know that you're there. Maybe they're interested in finding out trends, that are taking place in the advertising world as a result of COVID-19. And I shared, on an email chain yesterday with a bunch of clients, some things and stats that I've been forwarded to me about, foot traffic, as well as ways that brands could reposition themselves during this economy. And they were extremely happy to get that. I think, helping them understand what they can't do, what's available to them are all important. For me, the first thing I said last week when it was evident that this was going to be kind of a lengthy process was, look, it is a buyer's market right now. If you still want to move forward and look at out of home, I'm here to do that. I think that you're going to get some pretty incredible deals. I think that you're going to get some pretty incredible inventory based on the amount of shifts that have taken place. And the bottom line is, and I say this very sensitively, people still have to leave their homes in a way, like, whether it is to go straight to the supermarket, whether it is a 6-foot social distancing exercise that is allowed in states to be outside. And there are ways that brands could still reach their target consumer in a smart, effective way, whether it's repositioning the brand during this time, letting them know that they're there, changing up messaging a bit to tie into more personalized events that are happening. This is for you because you've just finished that 5th day of an at-home workout, or you just taught at home for the last 5 days in a row, so maybe you deserve this product. It's just a matter of understanding what is considered tasteful, what you should shelve for now, and then just letting them know that we're here. Proactivity, going back and looking at campaigns that we had run for them and saying, you know what, we took another look and we ended up saving X amount of dollars and got you this and added value. Just being smart, but also sort of keeping a fair distance and not putting the gas down on, okay, so when are you coming back? Which is tough for everybody.
Sure. I think, you touched on something in terms of buying power, and I think this is something that probably can be leveraged as a talking point with your brand clients. But yeah, I mean, today brands have more buying power than ever, regardless of the fact that every industry is different. Some industries are thriving through this period of time, while several others aren't, and they might be struggling. But at the same time, I think it's the agency's responsibility to uncover value for the brand, no matter what, regardless of what period of time, or whether it's the market's pulling back or the market's on a tear. I think it's the agency's responsibility to always be putting new, novel ideas and initiatives in front of them, so they can not only save money, but stretch that brand dollar even further. And when you're looking at an agency like Quan, where you have these really intimate relationships with some amazing brands, I think that, as I'm speaking from the marketer's perspective, that's really appreciated. When you could go to your brand client, or you could go to a brand and say, hey, I'm able to get this inventory at the tail end of this, or at the in April, May, June, July, August, even going into 2021, I've been hearing a bunch of different out-of-home operators doing all kinds of different things to make sure they're relevant, but also making sure they're putting their best foot forward in providing value to their clients.
No, totally. And I have to say, like, obviously it's not the most fun part, and it hasn't been fun for the sales side, having a lot of friends on that side of the business. But the way that the buying community and the selling community has kind of worked together through all this has been phenomenal. Everyone that I've worked with, where I've had to shift a client back to a May or to a June, I have had no pushback. There's been no, this is terrible. I mean, obviously they may be feeling that internally, but it's like, how could we make you continue to look good? What can we do that makes the client feel comfortable and that's right for the client? I mean, look, if you're going to go up on a big wall next week and your client tells me today, we don't want to do that, it's going to be kind of tough and a little bit unfair. But the bottom line is, I think that the sales side of the out-of-home industry has just not gotten their credit through all this, because they have really been a champion to at least on my end to our clients, and how can we work with you? And I guess it kind of also ties into, if you're running a digital out-of-home campaign coming up in the next few weeks, it's a lot easier to shift than a static. But on both sides of the field, it's been kind of similar. But yeah, it's just it's up to us to let our clients know. I think as an entire buying community, like if an amazing opportunity comes down, there's a way to say, look, I know what's going on in the world right now. I know what, we can and cannot do in our state or in our city, but there's X piece of inventory that is literally 80% off. And the bottom line is it's in a great area, just needed to show it to you. Totally understand you're holding on everything now, but I wouldn't be doing my part as a partner to not show it to you. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think, and I think that is putting a best foot forward. You look at how several different brands. I mean, speaking from experience with the brand clients that we work with, because we work brand direct as well as several agencies like Quan. I was actually surprised by the amount of empathy we were getting reciprocated. Both, brands, we haven't really seen cancellations. We've seen campaign start dates shift. Yeah. We've seen some flexibility in the way that that the stuff is currently underway, and we're also reciprocating that flexibility. And I've been seeing that carry across the entire industry, which is really good, because I've noticed some larger digital players not sharing the same sentiment, and that's that's been really interesting to see. I think a big part of that, though, is out of home. In my my short existence in this industry, what I've learned is out of home as an industry is really resilient, and out of home as an industry is pretty tight knit. We were on this really amazing Zoom cast with a bunch of folks that Kim at Geopath put together, and it was really awesome. It was something I think it would be awesome if she continued to do weekly even after this, because it was a way to get the entire out of home industry into a virtual room together, talking about their businesses. I had a chance to meet folks I've never had a chance to talk to face to face. And it's been really amazing to be able to share some of these experiences, and also get feedback from what they're experiencing and what they're dealing with today. So
yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I've said it to so many people. I've spoken to so many friends on the selling side, and I'm like, reach out if you're like feeling down, if you're upset, if you're bummed out about this. We all are. Like, I never thought that I would be living in Florida for the next month. But the end of the story is that, look, like, it's not going to happen where it's a snap of the fingers, everything's better, but over time it's going to get better. And when that happens, that's when all of a sudden everyone's going to be like, oh, business is coming back again. And like, you just kind of have to get through this, be there for your clients, be there for your coworkers, and maintain a positive attitude. And it's hard when you read the news and when you listen to the news, when literally there's virtually nothing positive on, daily, but it's coming. And I think for right now, it's just a matter of being a true champion for your client, and banding together, as an industry to kind of look on the positive side that awaits us.
Yeah, I think that leading with empathy and positivity is what needs to happen. I just got a note in the live stream from Andrea Henley at Omni. She mentioned that Kim Frank's going to be doing that virtual out of home meetup this Thursday. So if you want to be involved in that, I'd recommend making sure you're on the newsletter with Geopath. You're subscribed to that. Why don't we open this up to Q&A? I think there's, we've got a pretty good amount of people on the live stream right now. It looks like we had over 100 people sign up to participate in this, but would love to start fielding questions. So if you have any questions or any topics of discussion you'd like to surface, I think now is the best time to do it. So if you could throw those into you either throw those into the live stream feed on LinkedIn. You could email them to info@Wrapify.com. You can text them to me. So I think right now would be the best time to start doing that. And it looks like we've got our first one coming in.
Oh, cool.
So All right. So the first one is, how do you, assuming that there is a big, uh, big market pullback.
Mm-hmm.
What is this question? I want to make sure I'm reading this right. Okay, yeah. So assuming, because there's a big market pullback right now, like what new business is surfacing right now? Like stuff that you would probably maybe be surprised to see. Have you seen any new business coming through the pipeline that was kind of surprising?
Like in terms of like people that are advertising and who are out there right now,
Yeah,
brands.
yeah, like brand, like the categories of brands that you think are
Yeah,
active.
I think I've sort of seen a lot of brands out there, taking the approach of more of like, again, kind of tying into like the new normal and thanking their service workers. It's making themselves present while also adhering to the current environment. I haven't really seen many like, look, to be perfectly honest, a lot of brands are pausing on out of home spend, but those that are out there, I just finished up a campaign today, working on a campaign today where it's not a huge one, but this brand, and out of fairness, because they don't launch until later this week, are basically picking their distribution centers and advertising nearby to thank their drivers and their service workers who are there and showing that they're appreciated. And like, look, that's going to get that brand out there. And they do fall in the meal delivery kit category, so it's kind of a good time, I'm sure, for them. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the messaging that I've seen. Playing off of that, it's kind of interesting because it's hard to go to a client and tell them they should be spending now, but there are certain categories where it's like you should find the strategic ways to utilize out of home right now, and you should definitely be out there because there is kind of a lack of traffic, and like those are like streaming services, meal delivery, gaming, things like that. Like now is the time to kind of be out there, like a ClassPass. Like they're, I believe, offering online classes, and they're not a client of ours, but like they should. You can go ahead and cherry pick digital street furniture in New York City outside of supermarkets and literally be there and let people know. I bet you a ton of people didn't know that there are classes being offered, online. So I think it's more of what categories, I guess, should be that aren't. And if they are a category you have at your agency, I'm sure the conversations are being had, but like they should kind of be nudged.
Sure. I mean, and just to reiterate this, I mean, I think brands, or the really, really smart brands, are going to leverage this time to get inventory they probably wouldn't be able to afford or secure because larger brands would have already had it in perpetuity. So I think now is the time for when brands really should be planning for Q3 and Q4.
Oh, totally.
It's like it's almost like when you're looking at the stock market, there are some very, very opportunistic bets you can make right now, and
Totally.
I think this is an example of that. That inventory is like stock that will absolutely increase in value at the tail end of this because people are going to be outside of their home. It's literally in the title of the category, out of home.
Exactly.
Another question that came through, I think is pretty relevant. As a new agency, are you doing any personal outreach to clients that you may have been pursuing already? Like, have you been personally reaching out to folks that are not existing clients? And if so, how are you doing that?
Yeah, I mean, look, they would have to be for me a client that has actually responded, that we've had a dialogue before. Maybe, we're not ready to launch out of home right now, but we're considering it down the road. So yeah, every day I kind of pick 3 or 4 clients, whether they're existing, whether they're not, because this is an ongoing situation. And it's like, hey, just wanted to reach out, see how you're doing, see how you're coping with all of this, and let you know that if you have any questions or if you need anything, whether it is, current trends in the advertising industry, questions as to how out of home is handling, is doing during this time, like we're here. That's it. And just want to let you know we're thinking of you. That's it. Or, I'm thinking of you. It's not an aggressive sell or like, so you ready for out of home now? But yeah, you have to do justice to your business, and you have to stay relevant and keep yourself top of mind with people that, you were talking to or companies that you were in conversations to. There were so many really exciting campaigns that I was working on that would have been firsts for brands that were just there. And they're not necessarily gone, but they're definitely paused for right now. And it's on me to find that delicate way of staying in touch with, the clients to say, we're here whenever you're ready. Just even if it's proactive, let us know what we can do for you. In the meantime, you just kind of have to sort of sit back and wait, which is always the tough part. But the second that, again, things start to go back to normal, I'm telling you, all those emails start coming in. And like, if a client doesn't remember you, someone else is going to come in there and end up working with them, or they're just going to do it direct.
Totally. And just kind of flipping it on its head, you've got a ton of agency experience with your own agency and at some of the largest out-of-home buying shops and global media agencies. How should sales folks that sell through agencies, how should they be approaching their agency partners today?
Well, it's always difficult because, to be perfectly honest, I never experienced, well, no one did, but I never really did the whole working from home thing. So I couldn't imagine working in a large agency every day with my team and like waking up and everyone Zooming. It's probably difficult. I think finding a way to check in weekly, maybe set up, like everyone's still having their coffee. I have a morning and an afternoon, like everyone's still having snacks and things like that. Set up, say, look, 15 minutes to Zoom. Like, I feel like people on the agency side are missing that personal connection now. Because Quan isn't as big as some of the larger agencies out there, I'm kind of used to this. But there are people that probably miss their 15 coworkers or their massive teams. And if I was still at Rapport right now, I would miss that because we were all so close. So I think that if you're on the sales side, reach out. Don't do it daily. Don't be ultra aggressive in terms of like, okay, so what happened to this plan that we were talking about for April? But say, let's touch base. I'm curious how you're dealing with this. Some people, I'm sure, are home or in their apartment by themselves and probably, whereas they may do the stereotypical agency thing of ducking phone calls or maybe not responding right away to emails, they may be really inclined to hop on a 15-minute Zoom. And like last week, I had a Zoom coffee date. I had a coffee in front of me. The other person had a coffee, and we were just sitting there talking about out of home for 20 minutes. And look, it doesn't have to be an hour, but check in, see what's going on. And I'm pretty sure that, as long as you have a great relationship with your agency people, like they're going to want to talk.
Totally. We got a handful of more questions coming in. We got about 5 minutes left, so I want to make sure we get through all of these. Another one just popped through. During this time, how can companies in the out-of-home community work together better or support one another?
I think it's just what I said before, especially on the buying and selling side, like be flexible, do things you never would do on a normal day, but understand that like, we're freaking out on the buying side. I'm sure you're freaking out on the selling side, but like we sometimes have to bite our tongues and within reason, just try and make it work because we're all trying to keep clients happy and let them know that like out of home is here when this is all done. I mean, I think what you guys are doing, with the whole relief effort is amazing because it kind of, is going to lead to multiple brands potentially working together and they're going to probably come out of different agencies, if not direct. So you may have a few agencies that are bringing brands to the table for Wrapify, for this relief effort where, it's more focused on giving back than actually putting on a campaign. Similar, to what I did last week with Roman. So I think it's just everyone, being sort of in touch and being flexible. And what Kim's doing with these happy hours is amazing. And again, at the end of the day, the buying and selling side, like put everything off the table, like within reason, just let's work together and understand that this is a completely different time. And don't forget what you've done for each other. If you've pulled a big favor for someone, and that includes, I won't forget what's been done for me so far, say thank you. Just say I totally appreciate it. I know this sucks and, you're losing dollars in April, but I appreciate this so much. I will make it up to you.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. Going back to what you were saying earlier about things you've never done or would never, or probably have never done or never thought of doing. I mean, one of the things that I'm doing in addition to these live streams is I'm doing them with indirect and I'm even open to doing it with direct competition just because I think it's important that the industry sees us all banding together. I think it's also important that we're sharing within our industry what we're doing to help keep the lights on and also help support our clients. There's so much information and misinformation floating around out there. There's so much speculation and just fake news for that matter that I think it's important that the industry all bands together in highlighting the good information so that we're all in the know and that we're all putting our best foot forward. We got some more specific questions.
Yeah.
We got one that just came through. This one is, do you think there's a unique opportunity for digital out-of-home networks in grocery and convenience stores? So this one's pretty specific, possibly self-serving, but I think it's important that we highlight it.
I mean, yeah, the quick answer is yes. I mean, I published something on LinkedIn last week where it literally was like, this is I don't want to say forgotten out of home, but this is out of home that's probably looked at secondly, on a regular day. And like, if you are a brand that is trying to get in front of a consumer right now with specific messaging, there are some great networks out there where you still can hit people, perhaps even more people than you would, during a regular time. And, streaming services, are a great example. I keep saying that because if you want to show a new show that maybe got released early or something new for people to binge watch, there are digital networks in supermarkets right now. You could be live tomorrow. And it's not like you're trying to sell something. It's like, this starts tomorrow. We moved up a start date, or this movie is now for free when, we were charging someone. So it's kind of interesting. But yes, I think there's definitely a need for that right now.
And I think this will be our last question before we wrap it up. With no end date currently, any advice for making a business plan for recovery? I think, so my initial gut reaction to that question is, I think the out-of-home operators and agencies should be working together to put Q3 and Q4, I don't want to call them promotions, but like that's what they are. Q3 and Q4 promotions that are public, that brands can see, because ultimately right now booking business in Q3 and Q4 is more valuable than not booking any business and just kind of sitting on the sidelines and not doing anything. I think inaction is just not acceptable in any industry. I think that it's important that we're doing what we can to not only keep these wheels moving, but also make sure that we're communicating what we're actually doing to help brands. So whether it's creating an amazing campaign that puts a lot of cash in the pockets of these delivery drivers, that's what Wrapify is doing. But also like these big out of home shops, these big out of home operators, in my opinion, they should be very public about what they're doing to help brands in Q3 and Q4, given the current situation. So I'm curious, like, do you agree with that, or is
Totally.
Okay? Totally.
Like, I think now, like, we need to keep this momentum that out of home has had the past 2 years. And the only way that's going to happen is if, the selling side really gets ready for when this does, go away, or at least die down. And the way to do that is like, look, start by thinking about what agencies have what clients. Maybe there are opportunities that are popping up that never would be there, that make sense, and be, gentle about it, but be like, look, this is just opened up. It's available. It makes perfect sense for X, Y, and Z. I know it's your client. Like, understand obviously what clients with what agencies, and maybe like put together some never before deals or units that may now be there because of the current environment. If I got an email from a top, person on the sales side that's like, here are 7 units we have that are often never available in May. We wanted to share them with you, and look at these rates. This is a one-time deal only, blah, blah, blah. I would literally sit there, go through it and say, okay, let me see what clients these make sense for, and delicately be like, look, I have to do my justice to share this with you. Again, it ties into people being around and being outside. So yeah, think about the agencies, think about, what clients are often spending a good amount on a regular day, and like start to get super proactive and be ready. And look, this is really going to suck to say, especially if you're in the selling side, but maybe reach out if you're a digital out of home provider, or even if you're static and and it's everything but install and production, and maybe offer up some free space if the message is not really a self-serving message. If it's like a brand that's thanking their employees who are still working, or if they're, a brand that maybe has a paywall but is now free, and they want to let everyone know that, you don't have to give them 4 weeks, but maybe give reach out and say like, look, this is a great digital unit. We want to just offer it up for 5 days. It then will get the client thinking, oh, wow, that's pretty awesome. And I like that unit. And I've seen this happen so many times where maybe it's a new unit, you get 3 days free because they want some new clients on it. The client comes back, whether it's a month later, 2 months later, and they're ready to start making it a part of their regular media buy. So it's never fun to give away something for free, but it's definitely not forgotten. And that's another way to kind of connect with agencies during this time, when it's a little bit tougher. If it's static, maybe, they have to pay for production and install, but you'll cover, a gap or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Being creative right now is so valuable. Approaching it with empathy, also valuable. But I think the thing that the entire industry and going back to not just out of home, but the entire advertising industry needs to look forward. this too shall pass, and we will get through this, and Q3 will be here. Q4 will be here. And if you're behind the ball, if you're so horse blinded into the immediacy of this current situation, you're going to miss out. So with all that being said, Brian, I really appreciate you spending time with me on LinkedIn Live. This has been awesome. We'll make sure to reshare, repost the recording of this. Again, really appreciate the time that you spent with us. We're going to hop off for now. If anybody has any questions after the live stream, feel free to shoot me an email. It's just the letter J at Wrapify.com. And if there's any questions for Brian, do you want to share your?
Yeah, feel free to email me, brian@quanmediagroup.com. Always down to talk, hop on a Zoom, catch up during this time. I think we all need to be uplifted, and I'm here to do that, and vice versa. So, well, only good vibes. That's it.
All righty. I'm going to end the live stream now. Really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks, folks.
Thanks.